Hey guys, Shani Raja here, and thank you for joining me. I've got something really quite interesting for you today, I hope. I'm really going to introduce you to my 9-step editing system that is going to help you to take a piece of writing that perhaps someone else has written or even that you've written yourself and apply an editing procedure to it that is going to help sharpen it up, brighten it up, make it much more readable and engaging. So I'm going to just run through the 9 steps with you first, and then I'm going to give you an example of a piece. We're going to edit it together and see how you can apply this to change the nature of the document that you're editing and improve it. So let's have a look at this. The first step in this 9-step editing system is to do really a quick read through of whatever it is that you're going to edit. Particularly if you haven't written it yourself. It's quite important to just get an overview of the whole thing before you begin editing so that you're not going in completely directionless. You have some idea of the territory and the boundaries of what it is that you're going to edit. It helps you evaluate the information a bit better. The second step after reading it through is to just break it up. This is pretty much a technical step. You're just breaking up the whole piece into separate points so that you know that this piece is composed of these particular units of points. And that's really important because then you can evaluate each point in its own terms. And this prevents you from just getting confused by the whole thing. You know that ultimately the entire document is made up of a series of points. So it's important to know what those points are and to make sure that you can do the next step, which is to make sure that every single point makes sense. So once you've broken it down, that's a good way that you can begin to evaluate whether that, okay, does this point actually make proper sense? And if it doesn't, you either have to find out from the person who wrote it what they meant, if there's any ambiguity in it, once you've done that, you can be sure that you're dealing with real points in each case. Okay. So once you've gone through it and made sure that every point makes sense, the next step is to delete any of the points that you consider non-essential to the piece, because now you'll be able to look at the whole thing and say, actually, this point I don't really need it, it's not really that important. Or there could be things within that point, little phrases and things which you think are non-essential. So now you're sort of separating the wheat from the chaff, as it were. You're trying to leave yourself with a document that only contains information that makes sense and is essential to what you're going to say. The fifth step is to make sure that now each point, which is essential and makes sense, is unique. So that means looking through and seeing in particular whether any of the points have been repeated, and so you're duplicating the same idea, or you're not distinguishing sharply enough one idea from another. So that gives another layer of beauty to the piece that you're going to edit. Step 6 is to look at these points now that you've got, which are all neat and tidy and meaningful. And you're going to look at basically the categories that they fall into. The chances are they're going to fall into some broad categories. So, 2 points might fit in the same category, for example. So you're now separating the points into blocks. And I'll show you how to do that in a moment. Now, the reason we do that is so that these sections mean that you start to get a narrative structure to what you're writing, instead of them just being a bunch of random points where you've got something closely related to another point, far away from that point, and then it's going to get all jerky. Well, here you're kind of neatly organizing the sections, and once you've created the sections, you've got to make sure that the sections themselves flow into each other. So now you know what each section is. You decide, does this section flow nicely into the next section, and does that section flow nicely into the following section after that? So you get an elegant flow between the sections. Then you take the points that you've got and you arrange them into those sections. So you literally, physically move the points into their appropriate sections. So if they were far apart before, they're now closer together and they're flowing. You've already got the sections flowing with each other, so now the points will flow from section to section. And the final step in the 9-step editing system is now that you've got this new, completely newly written piece, you're going to make sure that it all hangs together nicely, that it reads well, and you've got simple, clear, and elegant language, and the piece as a whole is going to look quite different from where it started from. So now that's the theory, those are the steps, and I'm going to go through them one at a time, and I'm going to do it with a sample document. So I want to show you a document that I've been looking at, and this is taken from the United Nations website, and it's a particular section in their news and media category, and it talks about their photo unit, which is a part of the organization that has an archive of photographs that they offer to people. So I'm going to literally just copy that, and we're going to just edit that to see if we can use this 9-step editing system to make it look better. Okay. So here we go. We can have a look here and see that first paragraph is quite dense. I'm going to read it through for you one time just to see the transformation that we can make here. Okay, so its title is UN Photo, which refers to that whole unit. And it reads, the United Nations Photo Unit documents mandated activities throughout the UN system, telling the story of the UN at its headquarters and the field. Okay, historical coverage dates as far back as the inception of the organization. I guess they mean historical coverage of the photos. All images, both historical and newly captured, are available through the photo library as well as the UN Photo website. All images in the collection are available free for news and editorial usage, while a nominal fee is associated with commercial usage. The photo library's mission is to make its collection available to media organizations, governments and non-governmental organizations, researchers and civil society at large, in order to foster public understanding of the work of the United Nations and its goals. The photo collection consists of original negative slides and digital capture in the photo archives. Since May of 2004, all images captured are digital. While the entire collection is digitized, the majority of images are yet to become publicly available. Clients may visit the photo library in person to do their own research in the photo archives, and or to search the digital photo database through the 2 public access terminals at their disposal. Service is on a first-come, first-served basis. Research assistance is provided upon request. So that's the piece, and it has some good parts, but I think generally it's got a lot of room for improvement as well. So I want to see how we can apply this 9-step editing system in order to make this, at least better than it is. Now, I want you to understand this is not a full edit. This is just a series of steps that are going to bring it to a point where you can then go on to kind of make other fine-tuning and tweaks to make it even more beautiful. But what we're trying to do is show that you can transform a kind of clunky bit of information, a little bit, some of the language is a bit abstract, a bit technical, and I just want to show you how you can do this in a methodical way. So that we did the quick read through, that's step 1, and now the second step is to separate the points. So I'm going to just try and establish as many points as possible from this as I go. The United Nations Photo Unit documents mandated activities throughout the UN system. Now that could be one point. It tells the story of the UN at its headquarters and the field. It's another point. Historical coverage dates as far back as the inception of the organization. All images, both historical and newly captured, are available through the photo library as well as the UN Photo website. All images in the collection are available free for news and editorial usage. A nominal fee is associated with commercial usage. The photo library's mission is to make its collection available to media organizations, governments, non-government organizations, researchers, civil society at large. The idea is to foster public understanding of the work of the United Nations and its goals. The photo collection consists of original negatives, slides, and digital capture in the photo archives. Since May 2004, all images captured are digital. That's another point. While the entire collection is digitized, the majority of images, let's just break that into 2 points as well. The entire collection is digitized. And just, I want you to see, the majority of images are yet to become publicly available. You know, what a point is. So, you know, because you can stitch these points together in so many different ways, but you've first got to understand, you know, atomize it and just see what they are for what they are, because then you can, only then can you really evaluate how useful, important each point is. When they're merged together, it's very difficult as an editor to be able to, you know, to know that whether every point is worthwhile, because it can get a little bit blurred. Clients may visit the photo library in person to do their own research in the archives and to search the digital. Okay, let's stop it there. They can also search the digital photo database through the 2 public access terminals at their disposal. Services on a first-come, first-served basis, and research assistance is provided upon request. So this is just the first stage, okay? We're just separating the points out so that we know that you know, this is what the whole article, the whole narrative is made up of. Okay, so now we move to the third step, make it make sense. So, and by this, at this stage, what we're really doing is just making it make sense to ourselves. So we're writing it in a way that is easily understandable to ourselves. So we basically go over each point and we say, you know, what's it essentially saying, okay? So the United Nations Photo Unit documents mandated activities throughout the UN system. So I look at that and I will take a copy of that, because I'm going to italicize the new point the way that I'm going to express this point. So we're talking about this United Nations Photo Unit, okay? Documents mandated activities throughout the UN system. And there you've already got something which is a little bit unwieldy and not very clear, right? And I get a bit of a clue from what follows. It tells the story of the UN at its headquarters and the field. So this photo unit, you know, keeps a record really of things that the United Nations does. So the United Nations Photo Unit, you know, records, you know, I think that, you know, the UN system just means the places in which the UN operates, which is, you know, around the world. So the United Nations Photo records the organization's activities around the world. See, I've just sort of made it, taken out all the sort of you know, unnecessary overly official language there to really just get to the point. You know, United Nations Photo Unit you know, records or keeps a record of, or you know, documents even the organization's activities around the world. Let's stick with their language for now. Okay, mandated and so on is just getting a little bit too heavy and not necessary for if you're just trying to say what this unit does, right? So see, I'm making it already a little bit more user-friendly, a bit more readable without really losing anything. It tells the story of the UN at its headquarters and in the field. You know, so these photos, let's just, the photographs tell the story of the UN at its headquarters. At its headquarters and in the field. Okay. Sorry, I keep pressing that wrong button. Historical coverage dates as far back as the inception of the organization. So again, overall it's not giving that clear a picture when the language is like this. So I think the collection of photographs, right? The collection dates as far back as the inception of the organization. I don't know why it's a capital O here. It's just an organization. As far back as the founding of the UN or the organization. Okay, so we're making it, again, look at the step here. We are just making it make sense to us. Okay. So you'll agree, I hope, that that's closer to making sense than the original bit there. The next one, all images, both historical and newly captured, are available through the photo library as well as the UN photo website. All images are available through the photo library as well as the UN photo website. Say at the photo library, because it seems to be that's a physical place at the photo library, as well as on the UN or at, as well as via the UN photo website. Okay, again, it doesn't have to be perfect here at this point. We're just making it make sense to us. Okay, a nominal fee is associated with commercial usage, which I think just means that a nominal fee is charged. Let's make it make sense to us. A nominal fee is charged. It's not so much just associated with commercial usage. It's a very vague way of saying that a nominal fee is charged if the images are used for which I think just means anyone seeking to profit from the images will be charged a nominal fee. Okay, to me that's a little bit clearer that that's the point. Again, I'm not worrying about it too much. I'm just just making it make sense to me. You may write it differently, or you may be happy with the original. The photo library's mission is to make its collection available to media organizations and all these other people, which to me is, could be put simpler. The photo library's mission, I don't know if it's a mission. The photo library collection, let's say for now, is available to media organizations, governments, non-government agencies, or non-government organizations, non-government, another word for organizations, bodies, just so we don't repeat organizations, researchers and civil society at large, which I think just means the general public. Civil society at large is a very formal way of saying something much more simple. The idea is to foster public understanding of the work of the United Nations and its goals. So it's basically saying that the collection of photos, the photo unit. Let's say the photo unit exists to foster, not fan of foster, but let's leave it for now, foster public understanding of the UN's work and goals, to help improve. Okay. The photo collection consists of original negatives, slides, and digital capture in the photo archives. Let's see if we can make that point make more sense to us. The photo collection consists, of negatives, slides, and digital capture. Don't think we need to repeat in the photo archives. We'll say that. We just say, digital capture. So there's different types of thing. Since May of 2004, all images captured are digital. Okay. Okay, we can leave that. It's just saying that since that date, they've been capturing all of those photos are in a digital have been all images have been captured in a digital format, let's say. Okay, that's slightly friendlier. The entire collection is digitized. So the entire collection has been digitized. So I think that's just saying that even those that were before May 2004, which were not digital, have been digitized. The majority of images are yet to become publicly available. I'm not really happy with that, because there's no real explanation of why that is. So it's a little bit abrupt, but anyway, that's what they say. Clients may visit the photo library in person to do their own research. Okay, clients. I'm not sure that clients is the best one. People can visit the photo library to do their own research in the photo archives. Okay, and while they're there, it seems they can also, while there, they can search the archives through 2 public access terminals. Don't need to say at their disposal. The service, I guess, for those terminals, although it's not certain, but the service is on a first come, first served basis. Just italicize that. Okay, I can live with that. And research assistance, again, I guess, while people are in that photo library, is provided on request. Okay, now it's not the best language. There's a lot that I would change about that and will. But at this point, all I'm trying to get you to see is that, we would go through in this editing system every single point and make sure that we understand it, at least to some degree. And anything we don't, we either get clarity on from the person who wrote it or make it clear ourselves. We either do that or we delete it, because if we don't get it, then there's no point putting it in and having it in the final piece. So if you think that it's not absolutely essential to understand it, then you can just delete it. So we've done step 3, which is to make it make sense. And now what I'm going to do is to delete the original, because I haven't lost anything from that I didn't want to lose. And I'm going to now keep what we have, our new version of that, which is slightly easier to understand, at least for me. Okay. One, two more. Okay, so now we have a collection of points that make sense, and we're going on to step 4, which is delete the non-essential. So what this means is that now that you have made everything make sense, you now want to see whether there is anything that isn't absolutely essential to keep. I did a bit of that while I was going along, and however, I'm going to try to now look at it more closely. Anything that I think that this piece doesn't really need. So the United Nations Photo Unit documents the organization's activities around the world. The photographs tell, or its photographs tell the story of the UN at its headquarters and in the field. I'm kind of thinking it's sort of implicit, you know. It's their work. Now that we've said, you know, its activities around the world, it's mostly in the field. Okay, so they have some photographs at their headquarters, but that's not really that interesting or important, I don't think. So, you know, I would get rid of that. The collection dates as far back as the founding of the organization. Okay, I think that's worth saying. Okay, it goes back to when since the organization was started. So all images, both historical and newly captured, are available in the photo library, and you know, in these two places. And I think both historical and newly captured is a kind of a waste of time, because you know, if they're all the images dating back as far as the founding of the organization, it's old and new. Does it really need to be said? It's kind of obvious. So I'll take that out. All images in the collection are available free for news and editorial usage. Okay. Editorial usage, yeah, okay. I'm not quite sure exactly what that means beyond news, but maybe magazines, or I'm not sure. Anyone seeking to profit from the images will be charged a nominal fee. The photo library collection is available to media organizations, governments, non-government bodies, researchers, and the general public. The photo unit exists to help improve public understanding of the UN's work and goals. Fine. The photo collection consists of negative slides and digital capture. Since May of 2004, all images have been captured in a digital format. I mean, I don't find that particularly interesting, although the point after it I do find interesting. So, you know, this is ultimately a decision for the people who, you know, who have decided to do this, and, you know, who have editorial control over this. But for me and for our purposes here, you know, I'm going to say that I don't find that particularly interesting. Some of you may, if you have a particular interest in this area, but yeah, it's not to say who's right and wrong. It's just to show you that this is what we do when we have editorial control. We can say, well, not really that interested in that. The entire collection has been digitized. Okay, the majority of images are yet to become publicly available. You can keep that. People can visit the photo library to do their own research in the archives. While there, they can search the archives through the two public access terminals. Service to the terminal on the terminals, I think, is on a first come first served basis. research assistance is provided on request. So now we have deleted what we regard, or what I regard, as the non-essential, and I'm going to go on to step 5, which is make sure each point is unique. So this means checking through each point and deciding whether there is any repetition. I don't see it in this case. I think every point is unique, but what you want to do if you're editing something is to just make doubly sure that you're not saying the same thing in two different places, or what amounts to the same thing, or where the distinction between the 2 points is so little as to not be worthwhile. Okay, we've got something here where it's available. The collection is available to media organizations, and we do say here that images in the collection are free for news and editorial usage. But I think the point is sufficiently different as to not want to delete either one of them. Although we may revisit that assumption at a later stage. So okay, so let's just say, look, there's nothing that's deleted. That's repeated. So each point is unique. We're happy with that, but you need to check that in your case. Now, step 6 is to now look at these points and say, look, they are points, but they fall into categories that are particularly distinct. And this you're going to find with any kind of document, that the points fall into broader categories. And to try and discover what those are, and this isn't going to be perfect, but this is going to just introduce you to the process. We kind of say, look at each point. We say, United Nations Photo Unit documents the organization's activities around the world. This is kind of like, what the photo unit is or does. That's a kind of a broad category that it falls into. It's not a science, actually. I mean, you can find different ways of organizing this material, but again, I just want to get you aware of the idea of categorizing things and finding blocks of ideas within the points. The collection dates back as far as the founding of the organization. So this unit actually, and the collection that it has, dates back right to the beginning of the organization. So history of the photo unit, let's say, that might be a category. The images are available at the photo library as well as via the UN website. So this concerns access to the photos, or to the images, let's say. So can you see now, these broad categories, you will refine them and you can change them. And I'm just doing a very quick edit here, so I'm just getting the idea across. All images in the collection are available free for news and editorial. Again, this concerns access to the images. Anyone seeking to profit from the images would be charged a nominal fee. Again, access to the images, broadly speaking. The photo library collection is available to media organizations, governments, non-government bodies, researchers. Again, access to the images. So we're starting to see that these various points are fairly closely related to each other, and that's probably why they are already close to each other in the original text. The photo unit exists to help improve public understanding. So this is about, this is kind of again what the unit is and does. If you remember, that was our first point. So can you see that some points further down are more closely related to some points further up? That in itself is not necessarily a problem. It depends the kind of narrative that you want. But here we're doing a basic narrative where we're going to try and keep the blocks of ideas, move from one to another without jumping around too much. The photo collection consists of negatives, slides. Now this is about the collection. Okay. Details about the collection. It's a bit distinct from what the unit does. It's distinct from access to the images. It's what they are, what the images are. Okay. The entire collection is digitized or has been digitized. That's also closer to this idea, right? Oops. So I'm going to call it the same thing. The majority of images are yet to become publicly available. So most of them aren't publicly available. Again, you could kind of see that as related to details about it. No, actually it's more about the access to them, right? So they're not publicly available. So can you see? It's sort of, it's not a science, not an exact science, but you can kind of see what I'm doing. I'm trying to find families of ideas. People can visit the photo library to do their own research. Again, I'm going to say access. It's kind of related to accessing them. Because they can look at these terminals. Okay. Services on a first come first served basis. Research assistance is provided on request. So they're kind of saying, well, okay, you can get help with this. It's a bit of an anomaly. It's sort of help with assistance, but I think they also do mean help with searching the database. So you could kind of put it in that same category as well. Okay, so you can see you really want to, apologies for that, I keep pressing the wrong button, but you can see that there are going to be different ways, but what you want to do is get a kind of a narrative in place. Now, so that's where we've created the sections, okay, but now we want to get an overview of the sections before we can make them flow, because that's the next step. Okay, so when we now want to make the sections flow together. So first of all, we just have to remind ourselves or get clear what the sections actually are. And so how I'm going to find that out is by pasting this whole article again, and I'm going to delete the text and just leave the categories. Okay, this is kind of, I wouldn't do this personally, like go through all these stages in such a laborious way, but I need you to know the process. So I would just do this kind of a lot of these things at the same time, and you'll be able to as well eventually once you know the process. So this is the same, so I don't need to repeat that. Access, what the unit does, that's already, we have that. Details about the collection is another one. Access to the images we have. Access to the images we have. Okay, so now we look at that whole thing and we say, well, there are at least 4 sections in this little piece, okay? Okay, but now we want to think about how to get these sections to flow together. In other words, if we were to number these, okay, which would be number 1, number 2, number 3, and this is where you can look at the overview of this and say, well, if I start by saying what the photo unit is and does, that seems to be a reasonable place to start. So I'm going to call that number 1. Details about the collection, that might be, that would flow quite well, I think. Actually, on second thoughts, I would say, here's what it is. Here's a little history. Here are some details about it, about the collection, and here's stuff to do with getting access to the images. Now, I just want you to note how that's kind of flowing. You know, if you were to rearrange that and started with access to the images, you know, and then followed it by history of the photo unit, it would be a lot less elegant. So you can see in the original, you have some of this structure in place, but it gets a bit messy because it splits up the access part of it, you know, some at the top and some at the bottom. And that's, you know, when we talk about getting a flowing narrative, sometimes that's the reason why a narrative is not flowing, is because you really have to be able to look at it from this bird's eye perspective. And that's the great thing about this editing system, is that it teaches you or trains you how to do that. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to dump the relevant points into these sections, okay? And this is going to give a different kind of appearance to the whole thing. Okay, I can't balance that out, but that's okay. So, simple as this, okay? Go to the top, and I'm going to say this point is in the section what the United Nations photo unit is and does, okay? So that thing goes here. Simple. Second point, the collection goes back as far as the founding of the organization, history. Okay. Third point, all images are available at the photo library. That's access. So here we are going into access. Then we've got a few access here, so I'm going to grab them all. Okay. And put them all together down here. You know, this is of course, this is a long-winded way of doing it, just to show you. You might be able to just spot the categories and, you know, without having to write it under each point. Okay. And then we have another one of what it does and is. So I'm going to put that in that section. Okay, bear with me, because it's important that I show you it this way. Details about the collection, just so you get it. Details. Okay. And if I remember, the next one is also details. And the rest are access. Okay. So let's add this to the details section. And finally grab the rest of it and put it here. That's access, okay? Radio. Okay, so now we can actually remove the titling. It's already made the sections flow, and now we have done step 8, which is put the points into their relevant sections. And that is step 8. Okay, now let's get the title back in here. Okay, and now we're ready for the final step. So, but before we do that, I want you to recognize that we have actually taken the original and we've already transformed it by quite a bit. Okay, so we're in a different place now, organizationally and in terms of some of the language. But this is how you edit. The United Nations, and now the final section is to make it read well. So this often means, like, you know, combining points, making them flow nicely together. But hopefully we're in a better place than before, because we've got the ideas more closely related to each other. Won't necessarily stay that way, because as you go through the editing process, you might think, well, that point could just be fitted in passing in another section, further down. This is not like the end of the story. Okay, you can still make more, but what you've got to look at editing is as a kind of continuous process of refinement. To be able to get to that next stage, you have to get to this stage, and you're in a much better position to make those finer judgments now that you are here. So just very quickly to wrap this up, I'm going to just show you a way that we might want to pull all this together to make a bit more of an elegant narrative than we had at the beginning. So the United Nations Photo Unit documents the organization's activities around the world. Now I'm going to refine that further and say, make it a bit more, because it's a very, formal, official sounding statement. It's and such things as, if you've taken any of my courses, we're trying to avoid that and just say things in a pleasant way. Okay, the United Nations Photo Unit tells the story of the UN's work around the world. Okay. Now, I also don't like capitals whenever I think that it can suffice as a description. We've got UN photo here, and when you read this, you're not actually thrown off, right? And United Nations Photo Unit with all of those words letters capitalized is just a little bit less. Visually, it's a little bit upsetting and distracting, and takes away from the message. So the United Nations Photo Unit tells the story of the UN's work around the world. Okay, the photo unit exists to help improve public understanding of the UN's purpose and goals. Okay, and then we've got this, the collection dates as far back as the founding of the organization. Now, I see an opportunity to do something like this. Bring that up a bit higher, okay, and say, dating back to the founding of the organization, okay, because, we're talking already about the photo unit. It hosts, and here's where we get in, an extensive collection of photos. And here, so we're getting the idea that, this is we have to say what it has, right? So it hosts an extensive collection of photos that help people better understand the UN's work and goals. We've got a bit of a repetition on work, but I like purpose and goals, or even mission and goals. Okay, so I think that's a little bit neater. Okay, now here we've got some flexibility. Okay, but the points are nearer to each other in a more orderly way than they were before, which lets us kind of now resort a few. We can still make little changes here and there, and I like at this point to say the images, and you could do this entirely differently, the images are archived, okay, in our photo library. It might be and here it's a place, this photo library, so I might leave that uppercase there. It's not too distracting. The images are archived in our photo library and on the UN photo website. Again, that's a particular title. On the UN photo website, and I think they have a link there to that. Now, and here we can link up with that point and say, where they can be accessed in various formats, including negatives, slides, and digital capture. So, so the United Nations Photo Unit tells the story of the UN's work around the world. Dating back to the founding of the organization, it hosts an extensive collection of photos that helps people better understand the UN's mission and goals. If you wanted to get more kind of exciting about it, you could do things like, an outstanding collection, or, whatever. You could find other descriptive words. I'm going to keep it plain for now. They could have, they could say an exceptional collection, or a sort of something that makes it a little bit more intriguing. And the images are archived in our photo library and on the UN's website, where they can be accessed in these forms. Now I'm thinking the digitized thing is a little bit gonna stand in the way of the narrative a little bit, so I'm going to delete that. And here we got this next section, which is about access, and I'm going to say this part I like. So I'm going to move the furniture within this section a little bit, right? So I'm going to, because I think now I'm trying to build elegance through the points, like I did with the section. Now you could do it in a more formal way, but I'm going to, for time purposes, I'm going to just do it here as I see fit. So the photo library, and take that point, and where were we here, and say the photos in the library are open to all. Okay, so this gives us, it's really open to everyone. And then we can do a dash here and say, including and if I start to see a word echo with including here, so where they can be accessed in such as, we can change that to such as. The photos in the library are open to all, including media organizations, governments, non-government bodies, and researchers. We've said all, so we don't need to say general public, which is not, it's not a great word. So this is a bit more friendly and engaging, right? And then we can say something, because the next point is about news organizations can use it for free. Okay, so I might say something like this: news organizations may use the photos for free, but anyone, see how I'm connecting with this point, anyone seeking to profit from the images, planning to profit from the images, will be charged a nominal fee. Okay. The majority of images are yet to become publicly available. I'm also, because of the way I'm editing it, I'm going to take that out. My focus is a bit different. So people can visit the photo library to do their own research in the photo archive. So this is about getting in there into the actual building. They can search the archives through the terminals, services. So these last 4 points, okay? And I'm going to find a way. I think that's a really obvious point. First come, first served. I should have got rid of it earlier. But the rest could stay. And we say 2 terminals. Let's start with the terminals here. So 2 terminals inside the library. Now we can go lowercase because we've established what it is. 2 terminals inside the photo library enable researchers easily to search the archives, search through the archives. That'll do. And to make this last point a little bit friendlier, our staff are also on hand for assistance. Okay, so what do we have here? Something very, very different from the original. I hope you'll agree. And you know, better, I would say. You make your own mind up on that. But here is the full version. You may want to consider, you know, we're talking about the unit. Maybe you want to change the headline to the UN photo unit as the description, or maybe not. Up to you. The United Nations Photo Unit tells the story of the UN's work around the world. Dating back to the founding of the organization, it hosts an extensive collection of photos that helps people better understand the UN's mission and goals. The images are archived in our photo library and on the UN Photo website, where they can be accessed in various formats such as negatives, slides, and digital capture. The photos in the library are open to all, including media organizations, governments, non-government bodies, and researchers. News organizations may use the photos for free, but anyone planning to profit from the images will be charged a nominal fee. 2 terminals inside the photo library enable researchers easily to search through the archives. Our staff are also on hand for assistance. You know, that's pretty succinct and pretty clean. And I hope, therefore, that this all makes sense to you, and that this system is usable and very useful to make sense and create a better narrative flow for anything that you are writing or anything that you are editing. I hope you've enjoyed this, and you know, let's talk again soon. Thanks, guys.